Hello everyone, and welcome to the April installment of Out and Equal's Virtual Summit webinar series, looking at how LGBTQ advocacy impacts marketing strategy. My name is Ben Demers. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Senior Associate of Out and Equal University. I'll be your host for today's call. In this session, we'll hear from representatives from MassMutual about how their company's approach to LGBTQ advocacy has changed over the years, and the role that their BRG has played, as well as how these factors have in turn impacted how LGBTQ inclusion has shown up in company marketing. This is a topic that we know many of our companies are hesitant about and are always looking to learn more about from established examples. So today's call will look to provide you with some of those best practices to embrace being a public advocate. Before we get started, let's quickly review the logistics of today's call. This is a broadcast audio call being held from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, meaning you should be able to hear the sound through your computer. If you begin having issues with this at any point, please feel welcome to call in to the number provided. If you or a coworker is listening but unsure how to sign in to see the presentation, go to readytalk.com, click Join Meeting, and use access code 6946521 to join. If you have any logistical questions at all during the session, please just chat in and I'll help you find a solution to your problem. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording and slide deck will be shared with all who registered after the call, so you can watch it again or you can share it with other members of your network. Please also note that we're offering SHRM and HRCI credits for today's session, but we won't be having the slide with the activity codes at the end as usual. So if you're interested in obtaining these credits, please just reach out to university@outandequal.org for more information, or simply respond to the follow-up email you'll receive after this session. I also want to mention some webinars and events to look out for in the next few months from Out and Equal. Next month, on May 28th, we'll be hosting the next installment of our virtual summit series titled Beyond Transition, Non-Transitioning and Post-Transition Trans Employees. And as the title suggests, this webinar will look at how your company's policies and initiatives can support trans employees beyond the conversation of transition-related benefits and education that many of us in the D&I space are already now used to having. On June 5th, we'll be hosting a globally focused webinar on post-Section 377 workplaces in India, progress and future goals. Section 377 is, of course, the piece of the Indian Criminal Code that outlawed gay sexual encounters, among other things, and which the Indian Supreme Court ruled was unconstitutional just last year. So this ruling has signaled a major cultural and legal shift that companies are definitely taking note of and responding to. So this session will be doing a deeper dive into what that shift looks like. And finally, on June 13th, we'll be hosting our second China Forum in Shanghai in partnership with Shanghai Pride and other local partners. We'll be discussing the state of LGBTQ workplace inclusion in China at this event. So if your organization has operations in China and you're looking to further your diversity work there, we definitely hope you'll consider attending. Now, without further ado, I'd like to give a warm welcome to today's presenters. We'll be hearing first from Stephen Burkowski, a marketing consultant at MassMutual, who will be guiding us through today's presentation, and will also be introducing his fellow presenters. Steve, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Ben. I appreciate your time, and for everybody's attendance today, it looks like we have a pretty full room. So this presentation is actually the presentation that we gave at Out and Equal Workplace Summit back in October in Seattle. And so it has been shortened just a little for the time frame, so we might be skimming through a few of the slides quickly. We are making sure that we leave time at the end for questions. So any questions that you have, just go ahead and put them in the chat, and then we'll keep them organized. So I would like to introduce our speakers today. My name is Steve Burkowski. I'm a marketing consultant. I mainly focus on our LGBTQ marketing segment within marketing and business development. And then Mo Reed McNally is our Director of Impact and Engagement within our community responsibility area. Bernadette Harrigan is AVP and Counsel in our law area. And John Berthium is our brand governance. Is it brand governor now? Yeah, brand and advertising. So with that, really the goals of today's workshop or seminar, we want to share with you our journey of LGBTQ advocacy, how our Pride, ERG, and now BRG has played a large part in supporting and driving that journey, and how that advocacy has really impacted and driven our marketing strategy. So the 4 key points here are really sharing our journey, learning how you can leverage a strong BRG in your business, thinking about what your BRG can do to further support your business and how your company's advocacy could influence marketing strategy, and leaving some time at the end to hopefully discuss or ask some questions or share what your company is doing, and then taking away to be able to discuss at your own organization what you could be doing to advocate more strongly for the community and think about how you can solve for challenges that you face in advocating for and serving the market. So in terms of an agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about our purpose and vision, MassMutual's journey of advocacy within the LGBTQ community, linking the mission of the Pride BRG to our business, and then our large segment on how that advocacy has really impacted our marketing strategy, talking about some market research and insights, LGBT advertising and marketing and kind of the evolution with that, how we support our field advisors, and then how we outreach to the community and the support we provide to them. And at the end, we'll leave time for questions. So in terms of our purpose and vision, Roger Crandall, our Chairman and President and CEO of MassMutual, we have a quote that we recognize that diversity and inclusion is a catalyst that fuels our growth and help us achieve our purpose. And our purpose is we help people secure their future and protect the ones they love. And when we say that, we really mean all people. And so that's why, for us, the LGBTQ community is such an important part of who we serve. And our vision is to provide financial well-being for all Americans. So first of all, we want to start off with, I'm going to turn this over to Bernadette to talk about our journey of LGBTQ advocacy, to kind of give us our historical timeline and some highlights of our ongoing commitment to the community.
Terrific. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, I'm Bernadette Harrigan. I'm with the law department here at MassMutual, and what a bold move asking a lawyer to have a conversation about marketing. I think the only stronger decision, at least at MassMutual, could have been inviting a compliance person. So good for us for having the lawyers at the table. And I use she, her pronouns. And MassMutual's journey with respect to LGBT advocacy really starts, I think primarily starts in 2004 when Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, the state, kind of recognized same-sex marriage, period, full stop, right? That provided a nice opportunity for MassMutual, the company, to kind of become aware with a relatively fast pace, to become aware of the needs of its, at least, lesbian and gay, and then married in Massachusetts employees. And MassMutual, I am happy and proud to say, was completely supportive of the needs of those people in our community. In 2011, MassMutual was one of just 70 corporations that signed on to an amicus brief to legalize, at least to jump into the legal battle to move toward legalization and federal recognition of same-sex marriage. So 2004 to 2011 tends to be the starting point for our real advocacy, and our advocacy really focused on legal work to support things in our community, and the focal point there being same-sex marriage. And of course, we moved through the Windsor case, we moved through the Obergefell case. MassMutual is always a supporter there, but MassMutual is not just a supporter from a legal perspective. MassMutual is a leader, and that's important because back in the day, in 2011, there weren't a lot of corporations willing to jump on and do that legal work and be out in a very public way, and that's the key, right? It's great to have quiet things that support your employees, right? But to do it in a public way is a real risk. So that's where we want to try and get all of our corporations to be. So that was where MassMutual started in this kind of advocacy. Well, we know that we had our first big legal win in the country with the Windsor case. That was before Obergefell, right? Windsor is in 2013. Well, what do we have? As a result of a big win, we have a big pushback, a big backlash, a big slapdown from the communities that are not happy with our wins, right? What do we see? Almost immediately, within just a couple months, in Arizona, you'll remember, sadly, there was the attempt for that entire state to say, great, you're married, but we get to, if we're providing services, we have the right to say, based on our closely held religious beliefs, we're not going to serve you if we know that you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, right? Well, that gave MassMutual and some other companies, but we're talking about MassMutual today, it gave MassMutual an opportunity to engage in advocacy, and we did that in two ways. So not just on a legal front, but our CEO, right, Roger Crandall, who we quoted earlier, he actually penned a letter to the governor of Arizona and said, you know, we've got a presence in Arizona, we've got a call center in Arizona, we're not happy with what you're doing, we really think you shouldn't do it. So really kind of using the leverage of our CEO or C-suite, right, to advocate, which is an important additional opportunity for all of us to try and get our CEOs and executive leaders to engage. We also, the corporation, again, in that public setting, we joined the Unity Pledge. With some others, not a whole lot of other companies, but MassMutual was there. So we, in addition to the legal advocacy that continues now, right? So Windsor led to Obergefell. Obergefell led to all of the transgender rights cases, which are leading to the religious rights cases. MassMutual is always on them, you know, with 100% consistency. Crucially important because once you're there, you want to be there, you want to stay there, you want to be a leader, you want to be consistent. So we're there. But in addition to the legal advocacy and our CEO being there, we've also got our government relations part of our organization doing strong advocacy, lobbying in the state houses where we have a voice, so where MassMutual has a big presence. In those states, we do lobbying, and we also have supported in Massachusetts legislation to support and protect the transgender members of our community. So we've got the law department doing its work, we've got the CEO doing their work, we are advocating from a legislative perspective, and when and where possible, as often as we can, when any of the legislation that is passed is under challenge, MassMutual also has put its money behind advocacy organizations to help the advocacy groups do the work that we needed to do. And specifically what I'm talking about is MassMutual helped and lobbied for legislation to protect members of our trans community here in Massachusetts. That was successful. We got a great bill passed. And then immediately after that, we had a win. What do we get? We get a backlash, right? So we get a bunch of voters who in Massachusetts put a referendum up that we just voted on last year to kind of eliminate, to take away that right. And MassMutual not only publicly supported having the protections continue to exist, MassMutual also provided money and very public support to the local advocates in Massachusetts who were working to make sure that the voters showed up to the polls, number one, and voted the right way to protect our trans community. And that happy ending to that story. So I'm talking quickly because I know that we all have a lot to say. I'm going to stop there.
I know I'm about to start the music.
Yeah.
So is there anything within these slides that you wanted to talk about? I know you talked about the legal support that we provided. I know that you talked about all the key highlights. I know like back in 1998, we started our own domestic partnership benefits.
Yeah, no, I think in general I've touched on what is in the slides, and I'll take any questions. If anybody's got a burning desire to know exactly what those bullet points are, we can talk about them. But in general, I think the key takeaway is advocacy for our community is obviously an incredible goal in and of itself because you are helping people, right? But it also, all of this, particularly if it's public, particularly if your executive leaders are behind it in a public way, provides a fantastic foundation for doing more with that, right? It provides an opportunity for, in this instance and for this conversation, our marketing to kind of talk about, not just for the sake of talking about it to sell products, but to talk about it so that other companies can look and see, hey, the water's fine, jump in, do the same thing, right? So there we are.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's important to call out that long before we even started marketing and considering the LGBT community as a viable market to market to, we were doing all these things because it was the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And all those things help shape the direction and the flow and the intent of our marketing strategies. So with that, thank you very much. I want to introduce Mo Reed McNally, who is going to talk about really as the co-chair of the Pride BRG, how to link the mission of Pride to the business, ways to evolve your ERG or BRG, increase opportunities for its members to influence and support your business. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, I'm Mo. I use she, her pronouns. I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the mission and vision of Pride and then go into how we've fulfilled this mission. So we provide value to the enterprise by driving awareness and action on critical LGBTQ topics for MassMutual, our advisors, and our community in order to develop a diverse, inclusive, and productive workplace. So there's a lot in this mission and vision. The way that we have sort of boiled this down is to think about these three audiences that we're trying to capture, the community, our employees, and the business. And we have shaped our committee structure with the BRG around those three audiences. So we have working groups talking about community issues, issues related to the business, and then issues targeting our employees. So some of the examples on the next slide show the areas where we have had influence and supported the business through the Pride BRG. Many of these kind of cover one or more of those audiences that I just spoke to. So, of course, we have a great time when we work together because we're a fun group, but we also work very hard. So we sponsor a number of Pride events throughout our home office communities. Out of our employee group, out of our employee roundtable discussion group, we've advocated for improving the workplace experience for all of our employees, especially in most recent years, our transgender community, making sure that we've advocated for all gender bathrooms on our campuses. And our business resource group, our business roundtable is always reviewing marketing materials and making sure that we are reviewing communication for our CEO related to the LGBTQ community. Some of our successes in this last year, I know Bernadette just touched on the Yes on 3 campaign in Massachusetts, and there was some financial support there. From a community perspective, our Community Responsibility Department actually allocates grant funds and sponsorship dollars to each of our BRGs to allocate to specific communities. And we use that money for some of the Pride festivals, but then also we provide grants to the community organizations so that we can engage our employees in that work and also benefit the community around us. So in addition to these external activities, we also work very collaboratively internally with our other BRGs. We have a marquee or a keynote event annually. Most recently, we partnered with 2 other BRGs to bring Eric Alva to MassMutual. We've updated, in addition to the all-gender bathrooms, we've also done a significant revamping of our gender transition HR policies and recently rolled out significant new benefits to cover gender affirmation surgery. And then, again, as I mentioned in the last slide, when we're engaging with the community, it's not just about providing dollars and support to the community organizations. It's also providing an opportunity for our BRG members to get out of our walls and into the community and support the organizations and opportunities that they care about and that we care about as a company.
Thank you. And one of the reasons why we have the supported cycle for the cause is because near the end, we're going to talk about how we took just that grant or that sponsorship and turned it really into, a full 360-degree campaign that touched the field, it touched the community, and involved all of our associates or allowed them to get involved, with Bernadette being one of our riders, in addition to be a fantastic lawyer. So thank you. So with that, we're going to start talking a little bit about how that advocacy has impacted our marketing strategy in 4 segments: market research and insights, kind of our evolution with advertising and marketing, field advisor support. We are a agency-based business primarily. We do some direct-to-consumer, but we depend on our field force advisors to interact with the community. So how do we provide them support to make sure that they are educated in working with some of the nuances and unique needs of the LGBTQ community? And then finally, coming back to community outreach and support. So there's a lot of words here. I'm just going to really key on a few things. When we look at households, LGBTQ American households represent an estimated $304 billion by 2020. And when you look at LGBTQ businesses, it's a conservative estimate that they contribute $1.7 trillion to the economy. And so this is not a small segment when we're looking at it, from a dollar amount or in contribution to the economy. And yet, the spectrum of income is wide, just like it is in any other population. And there are some things within the LGBT community which can have negative impacts, but it is a strong and healthy market. And so some of the things that we've done in terms of market research and thought leadership include a State of the American Family. We've done that 4 times now, which includes an LGBT oversampling. We recently did the LGBTQ retirement savings risk study. And if anybody, I'm going to do a free plug for the debt-free guys. We were actually featured on a podcast back in November or December on that subject. So if you want to listen to it, listen to it. It's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm on it. So, and then a target date fund study, which we talked about at the same time, about really learning about what your risks are when you're investing. So this is our first LGBTQ ads, 2009, and for us, conservative company, this was our first foray into what we thought we should be doing. It was a giant leap for us.
I'm going to just take a quick pause here and say, this is where we started, and in just 10 years, pay attention to where we end up. And this is the value that a BRG can bring, because this ad would not have happened without the BRG. And at this point, we've certainly evolved to a much more professional and strategic business place. But if you're looking for a place to get started or where your group can have an impact, in just 10 years, number one, we were able to get started, but look at where we started and then where we end up.
We'll have gone. And a lot of that is not just saying, hey, we're gonna have an ad featuring a gay couple or a lesbian couple with a child, but really tying it into our whole brand strategy and our vision of who we are as an organization, because this just is talking about family and, any family, right? So I think that I'm proud to see this ad. I'm proud to see where we've gone and that evolution, but this was our starting point. So really, I think from that point through 2015, our ads, though we had some differing content, were pretty static and pretty safe. And in 2015, we started a Vow to Protect campaign. And so really this started after the Supreme Court ruling to legalize same-sex marriage. And as Bernadette said, we had taken some very public pro-LGBT stances and had a great record as an employer, but we really hadn't done anything in terms of national LGBTQ campaigns. So what we wanted to do is let consumers or just regular folks tell their stories. So what we did is we actually found real couples and we let them tell their story about what marriage meant to them. And I always tear up when I see this. I can't help it. I'm a weepy guy. But for them to be able to share their stories about what it meant to them to be able to finally be married and have the same respect and dignity that everybody else has. So now I'm fine. For those of you that can't see me, I'm waving my eyes. And because of that, we actually, Ellen shared our video on EllenTube unprompted, and it really kind of went viral and became very popular. We did a phase later where we did a paid partnership with the Ellen Show, and she showed our video during her show and via social and on her other websites. And so it just, for us, became that moment where realizing that we could do ads, but storytelling is so much more popular, where the content and letting people tell their unscripted stories of who they are and how they contribute and how they matter and how they're just like everyone else became so much more powerful. And so that for us was a really large evolution. And so you'll see like just some of the posts that we got. One of the things that I see in the very middle is from Nadine Silva, and it says, "Kudos to the leadership that supported creating and advocating this video or this message." So I think it's one of those things that we're saying this started because we had leadership that were influenced by the BRG to take the stand to do the right thing, which ended up leading to a marketing moment.
Yeah, I mean, critically, right? I mean, your company can do the advocacy and probably want to do the advocacy because it is the right thing to do, and that is exactly right. However, what a great byproduct to be able to say, we're doing this, and it's important, and you care about this, and tell us your story about why the work that we're doing matters to you. I mean, it's a great resonance.
Yeah, it is, and I think I'm jumping onto the brand message, and I think, Bernadette, you're exactly right. Guys, this is John Barthium. I use he, his pronouns, and so I'm here to talk a bit about our brand identity. And so to Bernadette's point, our leveraging our brand's voice was really what we were aiming to do in the Vow to Protect campaign. But our brand evolved in 2017. And so we rebranded, we had a new logo at that point. It's when I joined the scene. In no small part due to the work that the Vow to Protect campaign realized. So our identity, our brand, is centered on two tenets. So MassMutual is an insurance company, right? So the first tenet is security. So our brand purpose is we help people secure their futures and protect the ones they love. But the second is interdependence. And our community fits in so neatly with this notion of interdependence. And so our what some might call a tagline is our brand platform of Live Mutual. And so it reminds people of the importance of relying on one another. And back in 2017, we unveiled this to the world. And so the aim of this really was to kind of pivot the brand, our identity, to appeal to the middle market, but also millennials. But our vision of providing financial well-being to all Americans is really, I think, what's central to all of the messages we put out from our brand voice. So much so that one of the things that I do in my day job, not my day job, is I manage our brand guidelines. And our brand of interdependence and that notion is a little bit esoteric and nebulous. And so one of the examples that we use in there is around holidays and celebrating holidays. The two holidays that are shown in our guidelines, the first is Thanksgiving, and the second is Pride. So the notion of our community relying on each other throughout the years and lifting each other up is a core tenet of our community, but it is also something that, as a business, we look to for inspiration. So a bit about the brand. When we launched this, the name of this ad was Two Ways, this short film that we debuted our new logo with. This message really resonated with consumers. We increased web traffic by 430%. We had 55 million views on YouTube, and the consideration list for our brand, which is a very broad metric, actually went up by 2%. So that's like a very, it's a very significant metric. I'm not sure what the next slide is. Okay, so we're going into our print ads the next. But so just to tell you a little bit more, so back in 2017, we also launched around Thanksgiving an ad called The Unsung. And it was very, very emotional, very poignant, but it also told stories of people relying on each other. And so it was really about unsung heroes around the country lifting each other up. We told about a synagogue that adopted a local mosque that was burnt down, and community members who stood up for a homeless vet and repaired his home. And so telling these stories that were not known was something that we thought was really important to highlight how our brand communicates to the world. Again, we saw really significant increases in our web traffic and consideration. And in between those two tentpole moments in 2017, we did something that I think went a little under the radar, but it was pretty significant. And that was, for Pride Month, we looked at where we've been as a community, the LGBTQ community, and where we are today. And so we did it in a very simple way, in showing the progress that we can realize when we all rely on each other. So we took out full-page print ads in the New York Times and the Boston Globe to show headlines from these two eras. So on the left, off base, many sailors voiced anger towards homosexuals. And on the right, and this was from 2016, Navy names ship after gay rights advocate Harvey Milk. And the headline was, "Amazing the progress we make when we work together." And so not only did we lend our voice to say, look how far we've come, we also leveraged the brand of the New York Times and the Boston Globe in these ads themselves. So it's been pretty significant, and I think Steve is going to kind of share some of the other elements that we've done in other activations in the subsequent years.
Definitely, and we continue to do more. And so one of the things that we didn't have time with this is we had to cut out some of the videos also just because of the streaming. I would encourage you, if you haven't checked out our YouTube site, this is where I'm going to promote us.
Thank you.
Please check out our YouTube site. You just type in Mass Mutual, and you can find a lot of these videos, whether it's our commercials. You won't see the unsung, unfortunately, because the song rights for that we only had for a certain amount of time. But you can see the new one, right?
Yep, it's still up there.
Yeah. And then you'll also be able to see 4 new videos that were captured from interviews taken at Out and Equal back in October. And the themes are why trust matters, what family means, planning for your future, and as an advisor serving the LGBTQ community. So I would encourage you to check that out as well as everything else that's on there.
And I'm going to underscore that work was done at Out and Equal. I mean, so if you're talking about advocacy and how it can impact what the company is doing and the marketing, we got a tremendous amount of work done in addition to the 4 squares of the work that we in general are doing at Out and Equal. We got marketing, right? We get marketing.
And a true partnership, with Out and Equal. And if you look at the end card or at the very end of the video, it's side by side MassMutual and Out and Equal. So we're very proud of those. So please do see them. So when we move into 2018, we were talking about, we've been working towards evolving towards an evergreen campaign, but still looking at, focusing on what are we doing for Pride Month? What are we doing for Pride Month? Making sure that we're not just being one of those, what I call the Pride daisies, which every June 1st, you pop up, you bloom for 30 days, and then you're done. But we wanted to make sure that we focused along the same brand of Living Mutual. What were we going to do? So we focused on Mutual Mosaics, which was echoing that message that Pride is about celebrating differences, finding and celebrating those similarities, and coming together as one community, and showing that great things happen when we stand together, which John helped to design some amazing shirts that just flew off the shelves, and people were asking us at our booth, where do I get a shirt? And we're like, sorry, you can't. So we celebrated our longstanding partnership with the LGBT community by highlighting that Mutual Mosaic and Live Mutual platform. We basically were generating, having people take pictures at our booth and generating these user-generated gifts for all the visitors, and basically it would take them and kind of intermix them with other folks, so you could just start to see this mosaic of people that were just all literally connected within the pictures. So we had over 600 faces added to the mosaic gallery. We had this giant LED wall, which also talked a little bit about some of our history of advocacy, because we've done a lot in terms of what Bernadette was talking about, but we've always done it behind the scenes, and we did it because it was the right thing to do, but nobody knew. They're like, well, why would I go to MassMutual versus XYZ company as an LGBTQ individual? And we're like, well, because we're there. We've been there the whole time. So we started wading in there a little with talking about, what is our brand proposition when it comes down to the LGBTQ community. So the guests could also talk to advisors as well as learn more about our history. So when we look at, the installation, it had a really strong positive experience. It created some good collective moments. It was a pretty unique interactive experience when you see, and I've been to so many Pride festivals, and there are some, once in a while there's some pretty cool displays, but this was pretty unique to have, a 20-foot long LED wall that was instantly updating all the time with messages and programming throughout the day. And it was nice. We also captured some additional content from attendees, photos that we've added to our brand collection, that we made sure John was happy with them being on brand. And then we offered people opportunities to share their stories as well, to continue collecting stories. And then at the same time, we also did a social campaign where we are sharing live some of the things that were going on our platform sites, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or what's the other one I'm thinking of? Thank you, Instagram. Yeah, it's been a long day. So just some of the pictures from that. The last thing we really did and started dabbling in 2018 were local social campaigns, where we've been piloting these social media campaigns on Facebook using LGBTQ imagery in recognizable locales from the target market. And if you look closely, you might recognize Mo because these are her engagement shots. And so when we're, again, thinking about developing strategy is how are you leveraging the talent and the people and the energy of people that are actually at your company instead of just going to Getty and finding the same picture that everybody else has. So we were able to target LGBTQ audiences. It's a little challenging to do that, but you can look at some prospecting lists. You can create some Facebook lookalike audiences. We have a couple behind-the-scenes ways that we can look at prospective same-sex couples, and then we assign the leads to firms and advisors that were focused on the market for follow-up. So this was a lead gen campaign through social. So when we think about that evolution between 2009 and 2018, three things. We took a stand. We said we were going to do it, and we kept going. And we really worked towards building authenticity in our ads. So real people sharing their own voices, their thoughts, their words. We're not telling them, we're letting them tell everyone else. So it's just much more real and authentic. And then that experiential advertising, so immersion in the community and making sure that we're participating and supporting those local events. So I know we're kind of running short on time, but I do want to just touch briefly on, we also help our advisors help the LGBTQ community. We have a lot of, many advisors that want to focus on the market. Not all of them are LGBTQ. Some of them are allies. Some of them are more than allies. They're strong advocates that support the community. But we want to make sure that they have the materials and the strategies and understanding of the community nuances. So some of the things that we do is we have what we call local activation toolkits of, hey, so you want to do a Pride, you want to be an exhibitor at Pride, here's what you need to know. Here's what you should expect, and provide consultative support before and after the event. We host a bi-monthly national LGBTQ marketing call, which talks about things in the news, which talks about new collateral and strategies that we're launching and campaigns. We have LGBTQ tailored marketing materials. We share market research findings. We have a national partnership with the NGLCC, and we will be there in August. And then we do have diverse market and LGBT careers web content for our firm websites because they have their own websites as well. And then finally, Mo and John starred in our firm LGBTQ advisor recruiting video. So we have a lot of talent in this room.
Sure do.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mo to talk about community outreach and support, and then I think we're getting near the end.
Just for the sake of time, I know we talked a lot already about our grant making and community outreach, so I just want to highlight a couple of things on this slide. This these sponsorships and these activations are really the opportunity for us to cross the intersection of all of those audience that I spoke about. So, for example, No Hope Pride Festival, Northampton, Mass. Is very close to our home office. We engage our employees in marching. We have a booth where we have a financial advisor. And obviously, No Hope Pride is a community event, and all of the money raised supports community activities. So these festivals and these sponsorships are a way to connect all of those assets of your business. So that's just the one thing I wanted to say here. Cycle for the Cause is an important one that I'm going to turn back over to Steve.
Okay. Yep. So really, the reason why we keep talking about Cycle for the Cause is because we wanted to try and do something a little different. So we do support a lot of very worthy nonprofits within the community, but we wanted to do something more than just donate money to a worthy cause. So this last year we fielded a team of writers, including Bernadette, and created a welcome video brochure for the writers and volunteers. And it wasn't an ad. All it was basically wishing them luck on their journey. And I think on the cover it said, learn more at www.massmutual.com/LGBTQ. So there, it did another plug, right? And then we started a corporate giving campaign. So at the same time, we made some decisions on launching a web-based and social media advertising campaign with opportunities for our advisors to post cycle-related posts in advance on their professional and personal social platforms during the race. We updated our LGBT landing page to feature photos from our previous year riders, which were all in terms of brand that supporting each other. You see one rider helping another, fix a flat tire, and folks together having fun and being real and authentic. So that sponsorship of events like Cycle for the Cause directly tied into our founding principle of people protecting people. And when we say people, we really mean all people. So again, I know we're running short on time. Our social media web campaigns were actually focused on our team riders and other Pride BRG members. And as you see on the right, Bernadette, it's right there. So she's famous. So some of these are, we did video stills or still imagery. We also did short videos with them talking about their act of mutuality. And so in terms of, why they were doing it and how they were contributing to that interdependence of us all. And I think that's it. I think we're going to have a question slide, but I think we're down to the Q&A. So I know we're a few minutes over, Ben. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you all for that level of detail. I think it's also helping fuel some of the questions. This first question that we got in, Bernadette, it came up during your section, but I'm sure you all can speak to this. And that's, how did you get your C-suite to take a stance on something that might be seen as political?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, right? And that requires, I think, and anybody else can chime in, but I can speak to the way we did that here. And actually, it kind of goes back to our title slide for this entire presentation, how LGBTQ advocacy impacts marketing strategy, how it impacts leveraging the benefit of your C-suite, how it impacts fill in the blank, right? What we did was use some of the people who were in executive leadership in the company who were already allies. And as Steve said, not just allies, advocates, right? So we leveraged our general counsel, who was already a very strong supporter of our community, and got him whispering in the CEO's ear, right? That was the first thing. Then what we did was we made sure that many, if not all, of the members of our ERG had the elevator speech, right? So if you literally got the opportunity to have an elevator ride, literally, or walk through the cafeteria with our CEO or other members of our leadership team, every one of our ERG members had the ability to advocate from a personal perspective, because really what we've just heard from the past hour is your personal story is what resonates. Your personal story is really what matters. It is absolutely critical to be able to say from an honest and sincere and genuine way, you know, Roger, I'm a lesbian employee here, and I'm married in Massachusetts, but if I move to Arizona to work in the call center, I'm no longer married, and here's why that's bad for you, and here's why that's bad for the company. We did that over and over and over and over again. And we also, our ERG group back then, asked for time with executive leaders, and we got them comfortable with the concept, right? We socialized for them the concept of if you take this step with you, if you take this step with us, understand that we are with you, and we will make it safe. We'll help you be safe. We'll help educate you. And I'll tell you, back in the day when I first started at this company, I was the only one who was saying the word lesbian. People could not say it, would not say it. In a very, very, very short period of time, they, meaning the executive leadership team, understood that they really needed to do some learning, and with a very little bit of advocacy, they understood the importance of the need to be able to get there. So how do you do that at your company? I think you do it the same way, and you appreciate the fact that at this point in our country's history, we've got a gay man running for president, and he's being taken very seriously across the country. So there should be some level of safety that most corporations and most industries can take from that, right? And then you leverage that, I think.
Yeah, and I think, you know, something that I'm proud of is that Roger Crandall has basically taken such that strong stand to say if an advisor doesn't support us supporting the LGBTQ community, then they probably don't belong working with us.
Right. I mean, you really take to your corporate leaders a very short list, 3. You pick them, but you take the short list of here's why supporting this community is good for your business.
Right.
Some of that was in this presentation earlier. Some of those really great statistics.
Yeah. All right,
awesome.
Next question.
Yeah. So another question we've been talking a lot about organizationally is kind of, you know, how these discussions change globally. So I'm curious how at MassMutual your approach to incorporating advocacy into marketing material might change outside of the United States.
So so I can answer that, and I know John can answer that, and I know Bernadette can answer it. So even though we are international, when we're talking about MassMutual, our vision is to provide financial security for all Americans. So our agency-based system, just because of insurance law, when we're talking about this, we're focused on the United States. And I don't know if you want to throw in anything from a brand perspective or Bernadette in terms of MassMutual International.
Well, so I think that, you know, we're growing a brand that can be translated into any language. Yeah. And I think the basis for that, the DNA of our brand focuses on a community like the LGBTQ community that is under siege and underprotected and does not have equal rights, and puts a spotlight on it. And as we enter into new countries, I assume that we will take that same tact. And I know that in speaking with our previous executive sponsor of our BRG, who is now the Chief Compliance Officer for MassMutual International, not quite sure.
Correct.
Yeah. they've received a very warm welcome based on our advocacy and our legal advocacy for the LGBTQ community, specifically in several of the countries we've gone into. So, start that home.
No,
Awesome. So I think we have time for one more quick response to a question. So I have a question here from Dirk asking, when and how does marketing to and with the LGBTQ community cross over to being exploitative, and how do you kind of, walk that line?
So I think that's a really good question, and that's one, something that we're considering. And so we think about, I think for me, the answer is what we're doing in line with our brand identity, which is really sharing that interconnectedness and showing that we are connected and that we're not just selling, that what we want to do is we want to help, that we want to help all people secure their future, whether it's through retirement savings, investments, protection products, ensuring that your husband or your wife or your significant other or whoever you love is protected with whatever family that you have, and showing the authenticity in that. And so I think that's why it's important that we communicate these things that we do, because it shows that we're not being exploitative.
And I'm going to take a crack at that as a non-marketing person, but as a consumer.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I will do a couple of things when an advertisement, in whatever form it comes at me. Number one, is it genuine and real? So the advocacy work that your company does, I think, has to be a foundation, and it needs to be existing, and it needs to be public before you should be touting yourself as a leader for me and my community.
Right.
That's the first thing. So you need to be legit and credible. Second thing is, I filter a corporation kind of, like, let's take Subaru. Subaru is advertising toward the LGBTQ community pretty significantly. Well, what I do when I'm looking at those ads is, is it exploiting, or is it doing the same thing that it would do for any other kind of affinity group? Is it the same kind of, would I feel differently as an African American, or as a disabled American, or as a veteran? If at least as a consumer, if I feel like this ad is staying within those guardrails of, highlighting, encouraging, supporting, acknowledging, I feel like it hits me pretty well.
Yeah.
But again, your corporation better have the legitimate credibility,
Yeah,
if you're going to pretend to be a leader for me.
and I think that's where it comes back into the pride daisies, and ending on that note is to say it becomes exploitative if you're only showing up that one time a year.
Right.
And if you are only showing up to sell instead of build a community. So we encourage our advisors to get involved in the community, to join their local NGLCC affiliated chamber, to look for other avenues to contribute their time, their resources, to build networks within the community so they can understand what the community truly wants. So I think that we're out of time.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for those answers. As you said, that's all of our time for today, but I want to say thank you to all of our presenters on today's call, and to all of you listeners for attending and for joining these conversations. A reminder that all of those who registered will be receiving a recording of the presentation, as well as a copy of the deck in an email within the next few days. I hopefully will see you on our May webinar, and please remember to fill out the survey after this call so we can really continue catering this webinar content for your needs. And for those who are looking to access SHRM or HRCI credits for today's session, please email university@outequal.org so that we can provide you with the activity ID for today's session. Thank you all again, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.